Parashat Lech Lecha. Parashat Lech Lecha, I'll be honest with you. I was thinking to go about 3 different directions about this parasha. I wanted to do a Kabbalistic perush on the parasha based on the Ari. I said, all right, I won't do it. I'll do it maybe during the week. I will do it during the week. Then I wanted to really sit down and analyze it from a military perspective. People don't realize the greatness of Avraham Avinu as a military commander, and it's basically something that you could learn in, when you go to become an officer or something like this, about the technique of Avraham Avinu, what he did there, and what does it mean to us. But then I decided to do maybe something else different. I don't know. Beginning I had it about 6 pages. I narrowed down to 4 pages. It was just going completely out of hand. So as you could see, wars start already from the very beginning of mankind. Already start in Sefer Bereshit. And one of the first campaigns that happens, that's what we learn in this parasha, it's also known as the War of 4 versus 5, and that's the war that happened after the 4 kings of Bavel, of Babylonia, went out to oppress the rebellion of the 5 kings that ruled in the Jordan Valley, the areas of Sdom, Amorah, and the whole entire valley. That at the time was a very, that was before the destruction, at the time was a very different place than what we have today. For 12 years, that area was under control of the kings of Bavel, but on the 13th year, the kings from Stone decided to rebel. It's very possible that it's probably one of the reasons that it's very far and it's very hard to control it. So after being the kings of Bavel were in what we call Iraq today. Some of them were even at the border of Iraq and Iran. So we're talking about really far away. It's about 1,500 kilometers. So it's very hard to control people so far away. And people rebelled. It's very hard to, we'll talk about it. We'll see it later. So they rebelled. And what they did, they at the beginning stopped paying taxes. I wish all of us would stop paying taxes. Government seems to not understand what taxes do to people, and at the end they rebel. And that's a very bad thing. So, but the problem is that our leaders don't learn leadership. And that's why they stink at what they do. Yeah. Exactly, very good. So they stopped paying taxes. And then they simply slaughtered all the representatives of the kings of Bavel, all those appointed people. They mashechted them, they slaughtered them. And it took about a year until the news really traveled all the way there. Listen, they didn't have internet, they didn't have all this stuff that we have. And it took a long time to get there. And it's not just like this, we're going to start mobilizing an army. You have to take, those kings, you have to take them together. You have to everybody has to take his own army, put it together, and then mobilize it. And so therefore, it took them about a year to do so. In the 14th year, they went to oppress the rebellion. And the war starts, it's really, I can tell you, it's really fascinating what they did. The war starts without those kings from Bavel really mobilizing tens of thousands of soldiers. Of course, on the way they have to fight other kings, and that is a very bad mistake. That's a very bad strategic mistake that they do. And the reason why, so you ask me, why did they do it? I mean, they knew what they were doing. The reason why they were fighting other places, that later on there could be points of supply and refreshment to the troops that are advancing into into Eretz Israel, into Sdom and Amorah, and there will be easier to mobilize tens of thousands of soldiers from Iraq by foot to walk about 1,500 kilometers. That's a big operation. So they needed those points along the way to do so. So they had to conquer it. So there's not really a great description of what really happened there, but we do know that the four kings are able to oppress. Now, in that itself, there's a tremendous Kabbalistic hint or an idea, but we're not going to get into it today. So they're able to, to overcome those five kings from Sdom. And what the kings of Bavel did is a very interesting thing that maybe in a way could remind us what we do today with field mines. In order to stop the army from advancing or to capture your enemies, you put field mines. Whether it's tanks or anti-armor or anti-human, and so on and so forth. But what they did, they dug pits. They dug pits and they camouflaged them. So when they were running, when the king, those five kings were running, they simply fell into the pits. They found themselves falling into the pits. And really, practically, that's exactly what happens. Many fighters and commanders from the armies of the five kings find themselves trapped and imprisoned in those clay pits, or the lime pits. They really go all the way down, and you can't go out. It's interesting. By the way, I need to tell you that there are archaeological findings, and there were books written about that, about the names of the kings from Bavel and the time period that they lived, and they fit exactly to the time of the Melachim. So don't get all of a sudden turned off when somebody tells you that it didn't happen, somebody made it up. That's archaeology supports this thing. Now, among those captives, of course, there was Lot. And Lot is known to us, of course, from the story from his wife and so on and so forth. Also, he was, of course, the nephew of Avraham Avinu. That Avraham Avinu most likely had also a strategic agreement or treaties with those kings of Sodom. And of course, he was very close and felt responsible to Lot himself. And Avraham Avinu heard of that, and he went to a war against those four kings from Bavel, and is really able to overcome them and to redeem those people who fell captives, the POWs. And among them, of course, Lot, and even the king of Sodom, that was also one of those captured and so on. So at the end of this war, we call it Milchemet Arba'a B'Chamisha, the war of four kings on five kings. So Lot is taken captive. Avraham Avinu hears that, and what Avraham Avinu does is really fantastic. Avraham Avinu is building a commando unit. We're talking to you about, as we said before, tens of thousands of soldiers. Avraham Avinu make a commando unit. In that commando unit, which is a small force, he gives chase. Now I want to show you something. I brought you a map. Even though it's not in color, but I brought you a map, okay? This is Israel. Israel is right here. That's where Sodom, where is it? Right here. That's where Sodom is, right here on the bottom. This is Iraq. Right there is Iran, here is Iraq. Avraham Avinu gives chase. 1,500 miles, 1,500 kilometers, running all the way up, along the line, and captures this. He does a perfect two-claw attack from both sides, captures them and overcomes them. And the way he did this is really amazing. I mean, he really went far. And of course he releases Lot and the king of Sodom, and when he's coming back, when he's the kings greet him. Of course, they made a great profit from that. All of a sudden, we have this dialogue that says in the pasuk, "Vayomer Melech Sodom el Avraham," and the king of Sodom says to Avraham, it wasn't yet Avraham, "Ten li et hanefesh v'arichush kach lecha." So he said, give me this, I'll take that. So he says, no, you take the belongings, give me the people. Vayomer Avraham el Melech Sodom, harimoti yad el Hashem kel elyon. I would lift my hand, basically swearing Koneh shamayim v'aretz, master of the universe, im mechut ve'atzrochnal, from a string, of course it's very symbolic, to a shoestring, if I will take anything that you have. Why? V'lo tomar ani he'esharti et Avraham. So you would not say that Avraham became rich because of me. So the general intent, it's quite clear. Avraham doesn't want anything from the king of stone. I don't want anything from you. Of course, as it says the pasuk, the reason is if you will take something, when Avraham will be a very wealthy man, king of stone would say, I made Avraham. I made it, and therefore I would rather not take it. So that's very simple. That's straight in the open like this. Of course, the way Avraham refers to that when it says imechut ve'atzrochnal, of course, seem a little bit strange. I mean, is a srochnal, which is a shoestring, to a thread. Are there small things? I mean, there's a lot of bounty over there to get. So, of course, we could look at similar concepts in the Tanakh. It says, Mishoev meimecha v'adchotev etzecha, from those who bring the water up to you, or those who cut the trees. So basically, it's an expression that comes to cover something, from this end to this end. So, of course, what is this in between that we are covering? So, one way we could say, of course, if you look at you look at the Arabs, right? Let's say Saudis and all the Bedouins, it's mainly Bedouins. They wear what is so-called a kafia. Kafia is a headdressing, right? What do they have on top? They have on top that little abaya, the little string that they put in order to hold. Because what's a kafia? A piece of cloth. So they put that string on top to hold that thing in place. So now you take a totally different reason. Michut aratzot nal. In other words, from head to toes, I'm not touching anything. I'm basically covering everything. I'm not taking anything. Nothing at all. So however, if you're going to look a little deeper to what is really happening here, what did Avraham have to do here? So I brought you a small little book. This is a fantastic book. Fantastic book. It's called Elite Performance Skills. Life is a Special Operation. This is fantastic. Why is it fantastic? Because I just came across this thing by mistake. I just one of these things. And I started looking into it. And I said, wait a minute. Did I write this book? And I have to listen. I said to you things, and it's recorded, right? That I said before this book came out. And I said, wow, that's amazing. And reading through this small handbook, I saw a very interesting pattern between successful entrepreneurs and special ops operatives. You need similar skills. That's why not everybody could become an entrepreneur. Everybody wants to make money, to be a boss, and not to work. That doesn't do it. And even if you want to work, not everybody could succeed because you need special skills. By the way, one of the things that he says here is don't have debt. Don't owe money and live below your means. That's what we were saying yesterday. But I've been saying that for years. So Avraham Avinu is an entrepreneur. He's a startup. He has his own startup initiative that he does all the time. Avraham Avinu, and I will tell you, I'll dare to say, and this is not my idea, it's based on an idea of a person that I really appreciate a lot, is an Israeli historian by the name of Uri Milstein, and I read many of his books, and I listen to his stuff on YouTube all the time. He speaks in Hebrew. Him and Professor Shlomo Kedar, both amazing people. Reading his stuff, he said basically that what Avraham Avinu, the way Avraham Avinu performs under this task really helped to shape the idea of the Jew throughout the generation and the Israeli army as well. If that's such a strong claim, we really need to... I was looking to get this book to actually give you quotes from the book, and I ordered it from the library, but it didn't come on time. So it's really amazing. I love the way he writes. He helped me change a lot of my perspective about the army. And the more I read about him, the more I see the mistake that the Israelis are doing with the army. You may tell me, hey, listen, they know what they're doing. I know they know what they're doing. But most of the time they don't. It's no wonder that Israel did not win a war in many, many years. I think, though, if you ask me, one of the reasons is the same reason that the American army hasn't won a war since World War II. Hasn't won a war. American army is an amazing machine, is an awesome force. I cannot tell you. And I have a tremendous appreciation to the way they do things. Tremendous. But the American army, nor the Israeli army, haven't won a war, mainly because they made the army into a political utensil rather than a military, vehicle, or something like that. It became political. They use the army as a political thing rather than to let the army, the military, do what they need to do. They'll do it the best. But that's a different case, and it's very unfortunate because I can tell you this: both in the Israeli army and in the American army, there's some fantastic people. Fantastic. It's just amazing people. Unfortunately, people don't go to the army. I'm a big advocate of people joining the army. I'm a big advocate of that. And if you see a soldier in the street, it doesn't make a difference, a National Guard or a soldier, you should tell him that you appreciate what he does. You should. We don't take it for granted. Well, we do take it for granted. We should not. Those people are fantastic. They're just fantastic. And if you have a chance to go to the army, hey, I'll tell you this, and many rabbis will tell you no. And good thing that we have in our own YouTube thing, so nobody can tell me what to say or what not to say. If you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. If you have a chance to go, and of course keep kosher, go. Go. Even if he becomes a chaplain, go. Just go. Today you can grow a beard. When years ago when they called me, to join the Navy chaplain, American Navy chaplain corps, I was like shocked. I still remember there was a Friday. I couldn't believe that. At the time I had to shave my beard. I said, I ain't shaving my beard. I ain't shaving my beard for anyone. The only one I'll shave my beard for is for my wife. And she says to me, you touch it, gotta have a problem with me. So that's okay. I said, today you can grow a beard. The time you have to shave it. So Avraham Avinu is an entrepreneur, but he's also a tremendous tactician, and he's very unique at that. In terms of when it comes to actually perform and to deliver, he does it. He basically, let's call it this way: he discovered God and invented Am Yisrael. Everything that we do, we measure according to Avraham Avinu. He was not born out of thin air. He's a person that is connected, and he has solid roots and so on and so forth. As it says in last week's Parashat, "Vayikach terach et Avraham beno ve'et Lot ben Adam." Of course, that is a thing that the Torah always says. The great leaders of the Torah always emphasize the fact that they had a father and they had a mother. Why? So people would not turn them into gods. Children are not born from God. God does not have sexual urges. Union of children happens only for men and women. So it says, "Vayikach et Avraham beno, terach aviv, Avraham beno." The same thing goes on and on and on. ואת שרי כלתו, and שרה אשת אברהם בנו, ויצאו איתה מאור כסדים ללכת ארצה כנען. So one of the most strong talents of such a successful entrepreneur and a special ops person is becoming flexible and able to adapt to situation. If you're not able to adapt, you are in the wrong business. Go work for the government. Over there, nothing changes. The same garbage over and over again. In order to be an entrepreneur, in order to succeed in life, in order to be a special up person, you got to be flexible. You got to adapt, and that's the ability to break frameworks that exist all the time, to kill holy cows in order to build, not to destroy and to create chaos like we are experiencing today in our time. But in order to build, to create new frameworks and better and more efficient frameworks to make it into a better world. Today is we break in everything to create chaos. And that's very bad for us. When there is chaos, somebody will control you. When there's order, there is order. So, Terach had it in him. He went from Or Kasdim, right, into a place in which he's labeled to himself, oh, that's where I want to go. I'm going to go from here to there, right? However, Avraham Avinu, right, is going out and he doesn't know where he's going. He's willing to go and to adapt all the way when he's going, right? And he's so flexible that he's not Avraham Avinu, though, that wanted to go, and he went to Eretz Israel. Avraham Avinu is not captured and is not a captive of his own ideas and goals. He's flexible, right? So Terach comes to Haran and says, okay, let's go. Let's maybe go to Israel. So he says, Haran, oh, Haran is a nice place. I'm staying here. Avraham says, no, I'm going. And because of that, Avraham Avinu gets the call, say, Habibi, go to Israel. And then we say, of course, Vayomer Hashem el Avraham, Lech Lecha me'artzecha, me'moledcha u'mibet avicha el haaretz asher erecha, go over there, the famous thing. And over there, heyeh bracha. You become the blessing of the place. And then I'm going to bless you, and I'm going to bless those who bless you, and I'm going to curse those who curse you. And all the nations of the land will be blessed by you. Now, if you look at the world today, most people of the world have something to do with Avraham Avinu. Because most people of the world are either Jewish, Christian, or Muslims. And those ideas, Christianity and Islam, were all generated by Judaism. And it's all thanks to Avraham Avinu. It's so fascinating that I was looking to the way in which you say my name, Avraham, in Chinese. So what does a normal person do? Puts it in Google Translate. So what comes out? Yabolahan. So, okay. Then I said, let me try to see what's going on. I did in Hebrew, Av Hamon Goim. Then I did in English, Father of many nations. Translated to Chinese. What do you get? Yabolaham. The same thing. I was like, what? It's fascinating. Sam, say it. How you say it in Chinese? Yabolaham. Yeah, that's right. Right? So when we said the purpose is to become richer, is not just to see where you go or where to go, but also what is in the place in which I'm when I'm gonna get there, what's gonna be there. So and these are mistakes that people make, for example, when they make business or they make decisions about their lives. They say, okay, let's go there, but what's there? Like, for example, many people say, I want to move out of New York. Okay, I agree with you. Yeah. Taxes, can't have guns. Soon you're going to have license to breathe. 2030, you're not going to be able to buy a V6. This is going to say a V8. It's all going to be electric. What happened when there's a power outage? I mean, let's not get into that. It's nonsense. Okay, so where are we going to go? I mean, there's a lot of good places to go. I mean, I'll go to Montana. I'll go to Wyoming. Maybe Arkansas, Tennessee. So yes, we're getting out of here. We're doing pilgrimage. Okay, to where? What's there for me to go? Not just to get out of here. You need to be able to see everything along the way. What are the processes that will happen? That's what's going on. So those traits that Avraham Avinu has also comes to express itself in the war of those 4 kings versus the 4 aggressive kings. So the thought is really able to break all bridges, to break all distances and barriers, and to go to be able to see that. And the small force, of course, that Avraham Avinu takes has a tremendous quality. The quality is speed. He comes with great speed. It says, "Vayirak et chanichav." In other words, there are many explanations. What does it mean, "Vayirak et chanichav"? Some explanation is he made them green because they were simply running all this time. He just went. They were like better than Navy SEALs. They were running. They became green from running. There's other explanation, but that it is. And all these things, the speed, the daring, the ability to see the end, to know exactly what I'm doing, that's what causes success. When we enter a war, do we say, why do we going to go to a war? Why are we looking to achieve? How are we going to do that? Are we going to come now and negotiate for peace in the middle of the war? Just start the war, just finish the darn thing, put an end to it, and then we'll talk about whatever we need to talk about. We're going to celebrate, make some feast and eat and drink like the gods in Valhalla. But finish with this thing. All throughout history, forces, they came swift forces. Now, deliberately I says Valhalla, because the Vikings were the same thing.
Blitzkrieg.
Germans
also Blitzkrieg.
The Blitzkrieg, that's right. Once they stopped with it, they lost. 6-day war, what happened? It was they wiped the floor with them. They came from all directions. They hit hard. When you're going to go to an opponent, you're not going to say, "Excuse me, can we spar now?" Even if the guy is bigger than you, why you need to come? With brute force, fast, with all the force, you're going to overwhelm a person who is greater than you.
Krav Maga.
Krav Maga, that's one thing. Yeah, that's right. You're not going to go like this, ha! Or Karate Kid, that doesn't happen. It's good for Hollywood, not for real life. Brute, fast force coming in. That's the way it is, Habibi. Wait, want to say something? I didn't think so. Anyway, did you had enough? By the way, thank you for Ari for this amazing chulent that made the whole place let it smell like yummy. So all these guys that are not here are losing out. Yeah. So now, and it was a real dramatic victory that Avraham Avinu had. And of course, in the conversation, the way with Melech Sdom, we really see another quality of a good entrepreneur or good special op person or good leader for that matter. Avraham Avinu is not looking at the current situation. Everybody tells you, mindfulness. We'll put one foot after the other. You know what happens when you put one foot after the other? Somebody puts a foot somewhere. Never mind, let's get into it. But you know what I'm saying? You can't just look at things now. Look at Avraham Avinu. He's an immigrant. He does not have a lot of money, a lot of cash. He is not yet the king. He's just an immigrant in this place. But so of course, it will make sense, take looting, loot. That's what they were, at the time also what they were going to war. Land, food, and money. And riches. So he could have had it. He says, no, don't worry about it now. Don't worry about it now. I'm not looking at where I am right now. So the greatness is to really push away your immediate satisfaction, the immediate gratification that you have. So why? So in the future, the king of Sdom is not going to say, listen, all the money that you have is because of me, therefore guess what? Your money is my money because I gave it to you. Pay up, buddy. Avraham Avinu understands that. So the greatness of an entrepreneur like Avraham Avinu is that together with the big picture, is everybody saying, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes it's like, oh my God, what happened to people? We all say words, or verses, but we don't know what we're saying. We don't know what it means. We gotta see the big picture. You have to think out of the box. You know what it means to think out of the box? You live in the whole box yourself. Your whole life is in a refrigerator box. What are you talking about? Avraham Avinu is not only able to see the big picture, he also understands and he sees all the nuts and bolts and that actually compare, make the whole big picture. The whole big picture is made up from small details. So if you disregard the small details, you're not going to see the big picture. It's going to be a mirage for you. It's going to be a fantasy. Right? That's unfortunately the things that we have about, our presidents. I think maybe the last president to be able to do that is Reagan. Since then, everybody's faulty at something. They saw the big picture, but they didn't see the nuts and bolts, and they all failed. They all failed. All of them. In Israel, it's even worse. I think the only one that was able at the time to see somewhat of the big picture and to have something else that we're going to talk about was Ben Gurion. Since then, everybody is a failure. Fail! I am very concerned to the direction in which the state of Israel is going to. Yes, Israel, the land, is our homeland. But what's going on with the state is a catastrophe, is a completely decay that if somebody is not going to wake up and go say, listen, I'm going to stop with this, I hate to think about where we're going. I hate to think where we're going. I think one of the biggest failures as a prime minister was Menachem Begin. The problems that we have today in Israel really came up to the surface because of Begin and his peace treaty that he did. So now, he, as we said, that's what he says, and that's what it says. He sees even the smallest details. He also sees the string, and he sees the shoestring as well. The picture that he's giving us of the picture of the image of the shoestring and the string is very, very concrete of something that Avraham Avinu refuses even to take from kingdom. Nothing. But it also has a very symbolic aspect to it as well. And this is what Chachamim saw it as well. Chachamim saw it as giving us a symbol and signaling to us future mitzvot that Bnei Avraham are going to do by the refusal to receive that sroch and the sroch na'al and chut. Chachamim says, Atidim Israel, the Jewish people are going to receive mitzvat tzitzit, which is the ptil, the chut, string, ve'et mitzvat tvilin, and also tefillin, that is the retzuah, that looks like it, ve'et mitzvat yebum, the mitzvah of the yebum, where the yevama takes the shoe of the yabam that doesn't want to meyabem her, and these are the mitzvot. Because of that, Am Yisrael got those 3 mitzvot. And the way that the Talmud, the Gemara puts it, right? And if you want to look further into that, you can look in Yerushalmi, in Masechet Yevamot, in Perek Yud Bet Halacha Aleph. And the beauty in the analogy is that really taking the nuts and bolts, those what we call the small things, a part of the great vision in which Avraham Avinu, and because of that, of the vision, Avraham Avinu is willing to really give up the immediate gratification of taking tremendous bounty from these kings. Do we forget about see the vision? Do we have a vision in anything that we do? You have to have a vision. If you don't have a vision, hey, you're blind, you're lost. It's not for nothing called a vision. In other words, if you don't know what are you doing, you're automatically lost. You're like a blind man that you put into a carousel or put into a tumbler and you throw him out and you don't even know where he is. He's lost. He lost his bearing. That means to not have a vision. Do you know why are you doing what you're doing? Where you want to go with this life? Chachamim said it to us many times. Da me'ayin bata ule'ayin ata olech. One of the reasons, or the reasons that a person sins in this world is he doesn't know where he came from. In other words, what's your heritage? He doesn't know where you're going with this life, and you forgot about the fact that there is a God. Then you sin. You're blind. I mean, we all like to think that we are so wonderful and we know everything. And yes, of course, we have opened the internet and we opened the TV and we regurgitate everything that every expert says. But do we have a vision of our own? And the situation in the world and in the United States itself today is because America lost its bearing. We don't have a vision anymore. Well, one of the things to do is don't deal with politics. Stop the obsession that you have with politics. And that's very sad. And the ability of Avraham Avinu to see the string, to see the shoelace, is really connected to his ability to see himself in the future as a very prosperous and rich person, to really include and withhold that the great vision that comes, Heyoto Goy Gadol, you're going to be a great nation. Heyoto Bracha, that you're going to be a blessing. The Chut and Sroch in our scriptures are the Pruta, as Chachamim says. That the direction or that command, call it, that we have, really to pay attention to the small details. And Chachamim use that as follows. It says in Sefer Dvarim, Kekatan kegadol tishmeun. You're going to pay attention to the small details and to the large details. Young people and adult. In other words, that includes everything. Do we have in our congregation such attention to details? Do we address the needs of the adult males? Yes. Do we address the needs and understanding that women are part of this vision? Or children? What are we doing for it? So it says Resh Lakish says in Sanhedrin, Daf Chet Amud Aleph, שיהיה חביב עליך דין של פרוטה כדין של 100 מנה. In other words, Rabotai, you should regard a penny as you regard $100. And because of that, I have a bottle, big bottle, that I make sure to empty. And every time I have change, besides quarters, I put my money inside. Sometimes it ends up to be $20, sometimes $40, sometimes $100. Depends how big the bottle is. And I'm just saying, that money usually, I don't know where the money went in previous years. And that's a lesson that you learn from Avraham Avinu. We always chase about money. Do we bother to actually hold the money? We do understand that the money is a part of the bracha that God is giving us. Do we? If yes, do me a favor, give me all your change. All of a sudden you realize, hey, well, you know how much money I'm giving this guy? If I ask you for $100, he won't give it to me. But just give me, give me a quarter every day. So what's a quarter every day? There's a guy named Dave Ramsey. He calls it the latte factor. And that's why I said to you yesterday regarding, I can afford a payment. Maybe you could afford, you could come up with a payment. But you can't afford it. And what it means that every day you go, you buy yourself a latte. I don't know how much is a latte. I never had one of those things. Well, let's say it's, $5. Every day, $5. Every day, $5. Oh, it's $5, nothing. Don't be cheap. If you work, let's say, 250 days a year, take Shabbatot out, whatever it is, Chagim, whatever it is that you do. If you make a cheshbon, hey, Mr. Accountant, how much is 250 times 5?
1250.
1250. You basically taking, $1,000 and you're throwing down the garbage. What happened to you before they had latte?
Coffee.
Yeah, I'll tell you what happened. You used to be a real man. You used to drink coffee like a real man. Now you drink a latte. There's all these things that you don't need. You don't need it. And you need to designate. For example, I need a car. Okay, good. Why do you need a car? Why do you need to go to work? Can you take a subway? Can you take public transportation? No, you can't? Okay, fine. Where is your work? I don't know, down here. What do you need? A car to be able to get you from point A to point B every day without failing. Put in the car, turn like this, every 5,000 miles, change the oil. That's what you need. So why you buy yourself a Jeep Rubicon, Metrail, Mad Max kind of a vehicle? Well, where are you going? Overlanding, yeah, in the mall. And forget about the mall anyway. You buy everything in Amazon. So where are you going with this giant car? What do you need? Oh, I can afford the payments, but you can't afford the car.
You're going over the potholes.
Yeah, we'll go over the potholes that the lousy left us here. Dingbat. Mayor Matuch is the mayor. The mayor this. Yeah, I hope he listens. Maybe he'll get some sense. So that's what it is. You need to understand. You need to stay loyal to what is that you're doing. So that's what Rish Lakish says. There was an Israeli writer. His name was Shai Agnon. He wrote this story. It's a really, really amazing story. I'm going to read to you. It's a short story. I'll read to you. He said, it's a story of this poor man that went back Friday night from shul at his house, and he saw a coin. So this poor man says, what can I do? This person who lost it, he has money, he has enough money to lose it, but I don't have anything, and I can't even pick it up, and I can move it. It's muktzah, I can do it. If I would have found it earlier, before darkness, I would have taken that. Maybe I could buy 2 or 3 razors for that, and I would make myself yain for kiddush, or I would take a little bit of bread, and I would make a flour, or make some bread for Shabbat to pleasure the Shabbat. So he went in his house, and he's accepted Shabbat without wine. He accepted Shabbat for Kiddush without bread, and so on and so forth, without anything of pleasure. But instead of that, he made Kiddush on poor bread, and he did whatever he can. That's all he ate for Sudat Shabbat, and that was it. So during Shabbat, every few hours, this poor person went to look at this coin. In the morning, he goes in, and it says, "Oh, it's not a copper coin. It is a solid silver dollar, And he said, "Wow." After davening, he goes back to check the coin. Says, "Oh my goodness, it's not silver. This is a gold bullion over there." After mincha, he goes back again. He says, "Oh my goodness, what happened to your head? Oh my goodness, this is not one coin. This is many coins." Every time the temptation is greater. Every time the temptation is greater, and he's really struggling. And he's overcoming it. He's struggling and he's overcoming it. And after Shabbat is over, he makes Havdalah, and then he goes to take the coin. And all of a sudden, he sees it's not a coin or few coins. It's a gold mine here. He takes his pockets, and thank God he's got big pockets, fills up all his pockets, and so on and so forth, and he really makes it. So look what he did. With 1 dinar, he bought wine for Havdalah and bread and herring and other good things and so on and so forth. And he went and he did all these things, and still he had many coins in his hand. So this ani, this poor person, just like Avraham Avinu, really pushes away the immediate gratification in place of value. And that is a very important and necessary quality for a person who is an entrepreneur, for a person who is a special op person, or to an elite performer, which we should really be. It's a person who has a vision and is not interested in just living the moment, but also caring and understanding that there is a future. And Avraham Avinu, in this war that he went, he basically made a tremendous Kiddush Hashem, that he went to a war and he actually fought the war. And Avraham Avinu was not afraid what would people say. And Chazal in Midrash Rabbah, in Mem Gimel Amud Aleph, says, Mishmu'a ra'a lo yara, ze Avraham. Why? Because it says, Ki ata yadati ki yareh Elokim ata. Because God said, because of that, I know that you are a God-fearing person. You know, when he brought Yitzchak, it says, Nachon libo batuach be'Hashem, umatzati et levavo ne'eman lefanecha, v'charot imo et habrit. Right? That's what we say every morning. So, samoch libo lo yera, he really pushed away fear from his heart, and he says, Al tira Avraham, don't fear Avraham, ad asher yara betzarav, vayichalek aleim laila. Mishma shezo hayta milchama shel yirat shamayim. The war was not just a war, and that's where the Kabbalah comes in. It was a war on yirat shamayim, on the awe and fear of God. A tremendous mesirut nefesh. That war was just like the same mesirut nefesh that Avraham Avinu did not concern about himself. A, going to the war. B, taking the money that was technically legally his. But he did what he did is Kiddush Hashem. And that was a message for us all for the future. As we say, Maaseh Avot Siman Lebanim. The Ramban explained according to the Midrash that the 4 Melachim is the 4 Galuyot that Am Yisrael is going to go to Galut because of. Amarfel Melech Shen'ar, and that is Galut Bavel. Shin'ar, as we all know, it's Bavel, Babylonia. Arioch Melech Al-Sar, this is Malchut Madai, Galut Madai. Why? Because Al-Sar was a city in Madai. Kedar Laomer Melech Eilam is Greece, right? Mogdon, right? Alexander? Mogdon, Macedonia, right? Eilam, right? Alexander was the king of Eilam 6 years after he won the war with Darius, with Daryavesh. Vetadal, which is the Melech Goim, that's Malchut Edom. Remez lemalchut Edom. This is the kingdom of the Edomites. She'umlach al ir mikvutzat me'amim, and so on and so forth. And then from that they spread up to four different corners of the earth, which is really Edom, and that's what we have today. So, of course, the Radak also talks about. Many people talk about it, which is very interesting. I just want to tell you that Avraham Avinu took with him 318 people. Now, if you're going to put the numerical value of 318, it becomes even more because it's Eliezer. So it could be the only Eliezer, and I'm okay with 318 people going to war also. I'm just going to tell you that. That's just in terms of that. However, the Midrash also explains that the reason of this war was a completely progress of the world forward. And it says, Amar Rabbi Eliezer bar Ravina, Rabbi Elazar bar Ravina. Rabbi Elazar bar Ravina said the following. Yidan, don't sleep. He said the following. Im ra'ita malchuyot mitgarot elu be'elu. If you saw the nations, the kingdoms, really starting to fight one another, or are inciting one another to go into war, spe leraglo shel Mashiach. You know, Mashiach footprint is coming in the way, or his foot is coming in the way in the door. Teda shekach haya b'yimei Avraham. That's what happened during the time of Avraham Avinu. Al yedei shenitgaru malchuyot elu be'elu. They start fighting one another, and because of that, Geula, redemption, came to Avraham Avinu. So, it seems like it was, the reason was Avraham Avinu can actually win the 4 kings and actually rule that area. And there were Markei Resha, and of course, again, the Kabbalah talks about it as well, very well. And you see that even war and historical events also have, not only beyond the immediate effect that they have, they also have a tremendous and wider influence, bringing us closer to Geulah, to redemption. The Netziv finds, and we almost finished, the Netziv finds a tremendous connection here between the preparation, that the physical preparation to the spiritual preparation to the war. The Gemara in Masechet Nedarim in Daf Lamed Bet Amud Aleph says that Avraham Avinu horik et chanichav betorah lifnei sheyatzu lakrav. In other words, he made them shine with Torah. In other words, he was teaching them Torah. In other words, why Torah? So they will have derech eretz. They'll know what to do according to the eyes of God, right? So he says that as the more or the heavier the war, the more we have to learn halacha, and we have to make our knife or our swords or blades sharper. And he explains that even in this case, that Avraham Avinu horik et chanichav, how behalicha amuka, ad shaya lahem kashe lehavin ve'oriku pneihem. So he gave them difficult halachas. Why? Until their faces became green, because they were mind-blowing by this halacha. He made them work in halacha. Rabotai, you see today the times, how America and Iran are going head in head, America and China, Russia with Ukraine. The world is not settled. In other words, big things are coming. And that's why before Mashiach, we're going to have the war of Gog and Magog. Now, if Avraham Avinu knew that, and he made sure that there is a war before they go to war, they're going to learn Torah. If Rabban Gamliel told his students, before the time of Mashiach, you're going to be saved with Torah and Gemilut Chasadim. If we see all these things that are happening, you're going to make it? If you're not learning Torah, you won't. And I'm telling you this straight out. If there's going to be a big war, Chas v'Shalom, God forbid, at the time of Mashiach, and you don't learn Torah, I'm telling you this, you are not going to make it. Don't let anybody tell you stories. You're not going to make it. And that's what we are saying here. This is the expression of that, we're saying, of Ve'eriku pneim, all of a sudden takes a different understanding, different turn. And only after the spiritual preparation, they can go to a war. Now, if we're going to go back to the words of Chachamim, 3 more lines. If you're going to go back to the words of Chachamim, they saw that the string and the shoelace as expression of a future vision that Avraham Avinu is really aiming towards, right? So Chanal, as we say, which is the mitzvat yibum and so on and so forth, right? She'atidim banav lekabel b'schut ha'ipuk shelo, because he held himself. So we're getting those mitzvot. And as a true entrepreneur, we know that one day the sandals are going to be worn out. They're going to be old. The tools are going to change. So the most important thing is not the tools and not the... imagine, for example, we will be able to save... we should go far. If you know what happened to the Polacks in World War II, when the Germans came with the Blitzkrieg, they came in with horses. They didn't change. They were serving the tools. They didn't have the spirit. So those things the tools are going to disappear. They're going to become irrelevant one day. The only thing that would remain is really the vision. And the vision, you should not be also anchored with your vision. It needs to be flexible. It needs to be adaptive, and it needs to be able to adapt itself to new times that are always, because the times, they are changing. Of course, Bob Dylan knew that. You know why? Because Bob Dylan is a Jew. So the conduct, Mordechai Zimmerman. Yeah. So the conduct of a man and his royalty and the nobility that he will act during war Enduring war of life, in our life, is what we call, that's how you measure a great person, is his ability to stand the tests of temptations, to stay loyal to his vision. That's what would teach us about his great spirit, and that is a tremendous limud for us. Each and every human, each and every person has difficulties in life. Each and every person, when it's difficult, has many chances and choices to make. However, only the one who does not lose his cool, does not lose his good midot, does not go for the immediate gratification, only that person is going to become successful. Only that person is going to become a great person, a nobleman. And that is a tremendous lesson that is relevant to all of us every single day. And I would recommend to you to really think about what we said today and to try to implement that to your lives. We are in very uneasy times. We need all to make it. The only way to make it is to understand that. Shabbat Shalom.